Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm Geneva Robbins, and today I have Rita Reddy with me. Say hi, Rita.
Hello.
Good to have you here. We're going to be chatting about how do you take care of yourself and your energy when you take care of others all day long. So we'll be talking about strategies and helpful tips and tools to keep your energy clear, to get centered and stay centered, even though you might be, a nurse or frontline worker or taking calls all day or a mom or parent, or a teacher. Anybody who is sensitive too, where you might be really feeling or picking up on the feelings of other people or directly helping people with their big moments. And how do you, stay in that clear spot, which is a big one. And we both got a number of strategies that we use ourselves. So we'll hop into that ride after we do our intro little meditation, our collective breath of gratitude. So if you are not driving, you can close your eyes and take a few gentle breaths. Let everything settle into the support below you. Know that you are safe here. Letting your energy connect to the energy within the earth, directly below your feet. Take a big sigh of relief, letting everything settle, calling all of your energy back to you. And let anything that you may have picked up just gently drift off into space. Notice how you strongly remain in your core, in your center. And from this connected space, you can send out a wave of gratitude, noticing the earth all around you and its bounty, the growing plants and trees and flowers, the energy of all of the animals, birds, and insects, flowing life to and fro everywhere. Noticing the water and air. And as you send out this energy of gratitude, noticing the returning wave of gratitude flowing in your direction. Here you go. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and your toes. And oh, that's so good. I love it. Thank you. Rita, how did that go for you?
It was nice. I always need that break and I get right into it and I feel like I wish it would last longer.
We have many, much longer meditations on the website that
I know.
we'll kind of go through a lot of the very relevant to our topic today of kind of keeping your energy clear and staying clear. because I feel like a meditative practice is like the anchor for sensitive souls. It's like the reset button that can just let everything, like, you can just drop everything. And different kinds of meditations will work for different people and different situations and the different energies you might be in. So try them all. Don't worry if you have a busy, active, fast mind. I feel like the only way you can do a meditation wrong is to not do it at all. So even if your mind is really busy, it's not that you're failing at meditation. You're clearing out all of those thoughts. So even if it's a not a comfortable meditation, it's still creating a change. And sometimes those really bad, terrible, no good meditations are the ones that, I don't know, it feels like life saving. It like keeps your head above water when everything has gone sideways in your life. So that's what I find with it. Yeah, it sort of clears out all of the chaos. So then when you go back into your day, you are just clearer and more calm and grounded. And then over time, if you keep on meditating, that noise actually starts slowly, slowly settling down. So that's what I found. So, but how about for you? Like, what's a tool that you use to keep your energy clear when you're dealing with people all day long?
I love our Reiki practice of like putting a white light around yourself or suiting up like in a suit of like Reiki armor. um, I always like grab that anytime, like if I'm feeling unsafe, if I'm like walking at night, or if I'm, walking to my car in a dark parking lot or anything like that. I always use it. And I always remember a coworker of mine actually, she used to say that she white lights her car every day in the parking lot. And I was like, oh, I was like, that's a good idea. Yeah, so I kind of like carried that around as like my reminder to like use that tool. And then, of course, like if I'm practicing Reiki and I have a Reiki client or even just like a friend that I'm giving advice to, it's really easy, especially with friends, to get sucked into like a drama or like a anything that's happening, like an event in someone's life that's not fun, like divorce or like relationship trouble or like you name it. It's really easy to personalize it too, especially when it's a friend or a relative, like a sibling or something like that. Like you want to be extra careful of like getting involved energetically into their, like it's very easy to start feeling sad for somebody that you love and like start getting into their feelings and like start feeling their feelings, but it's also very detrimental to yourself because you don't need to do that. Like you don't need to feel sad if somebody else is sad. The sadness is actually not yours to feel, and you need to allow the sadness to be theirs, and you need to be the strong one to like help them through it. I mean, especially if you're not going through that scenario, like you're not involved in it in any way, like yeah, it's really important to always just be mindful of what your empathy is doing, or what your like even what your voice is doing, what your words are doing. Like as soon as I remember, I always go back to the Zen master because he did this um he did this workshop once where he asked us, like he said a scenario like, you know, a person close to me has died. What do you say to me? And like we went around in the circle and everyone said their thing like, oh, I'm very sorry. for your loss, or like just the kind of the generic things you would kind of say when someone loses a person close to them. And the minute you say it brings you into the scenario. And it was really interesting, like to not say I, or to bring awareness to why you say I and what that means. And like just that was really like eye-opening, because I was like, as soon as you say I'm very sorry, you're personalizing this thing, and it's just like, well, what does it have to do with you? Like, why are you sorry?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. It keeps the focus on the person, right? And their feelings. And it's also it sounds like it's a handy tool for you as well, right? Like if you are refraining from saying I when you're having a conversation with someone else, when they're in an intense state, then it's almost like it creates a little bit of a verbal boundary between you and them, and acknowledge and even an inner acknowledgement of like, I'm in my bubble and they're in their bubble, and and I can understand what they're sharing with me, and I can make space for it, but I don't have to jump into it with them, And then also having tools, like you said, when it's somebody close and you care so much, it's normal to have feelings about those big things. Of course you do. You're an empathetic person. It's okay to have your own feelings, but it's also about like you take care of what's on your side of the fence and let other people take care of what's on their side of the fence. And you're just beside them, cheering them on with wherever they're at and making space for wherever they're at without trying to fix it or change them at all. Just like it's almost like a respectful thing of like making that space. I feel like that's a lot easier when you are in that sort of clear energy space. And I like that you brought up Reiki, because in level one, we teach practices of grounding, which is really important because then you've got like your anchor. And that's a little bit of what we do at the beginning of all of the podcasts is we do a bit of a grounding technique. And the simplest is just notice that there's an earth below you and let your energy connect to it, and relax your breathing and just notice the energy in your body, notice the energy in the earth, and then notice the energy around your body. And in Reiki, we use lots of breathing techniques, but you can visualize light around you or just this feeling of a protective energy bubble, so that we call it the aura, that electromagnetic field that protects you and keeps you safe. I like to use violet light because it's the highest end of the spectrum and it sort of represents the most pure, clear energy you can possibly think of, right? So everything, if you put a little violet edge to your aura, then everything slides off. It's like spiritual Teflon. So then people can be in this you can be in this live and let live energetic space. So with your ground, if you're having a feeling when somebody's sharing something, you can just let that feeling go into the earth. You can let it ground. You can breathe into what you are feeling when somebody else is sharing something big. So you take care of what's on your side. And then anything that that person might be sharing with you, you can imagine that instead of the energy or the emotion of it, I find especially for energetically sensitive people, it's almost like they just get stuck. All of those emotions just get stuck to you. So by the end of the day, you're just like completely drained, or you feel like everything weighs 1,000 pounds, right? Like you have the emotional heaviness of everything that you've encountered that day and all of those big stories. And so it's a bit of just letting that slide off, letting it go to the earth or imagining it going to, directly up to the source. I never return to sender, so I never fire any energy back at, like if somebody's sent me grief or is expressing grief, I don't think of it like a rubber ball where it's going to bounce back to them. It's like they can express it. It's totally fine. And I can just let it go into the earth. It doesn't have to cross the membrane of the energy bubble around me. It can stay out of my field. And I find that that process of grounding and noticing your aura while you're in a conversation or, and with Reiki, that's part of our practice. There's a whole bunch of other steps as well that keep you energetically clear and safe while you're doing the work and while you're doing the intake and debrief and everything. And those tools, like when you put them all together, I find it keeps you very, very clear. But what's magic is that it increases your capacity to hold big space because now you don't have to fix it. You don't have to cheer them up so you feel less sad, but you're just respectful of their sadness. It's okay that they feel the way they do. And it wasn't always like this for me, but I used to feel everything and everyone's everything. I didn't know that I had an aura I needed to protect and clear. But once I did and I learned Reiki, it totally shifted things and more and in bigger and bigger circumstances, I could hold that big space for people without feeling bombarded. And I would say that it's actually gone the other way, which is that, particularly when I'm doing a session for other people, is that when I'm connected and clear, I'm also connected to source. And that energy has the frequency and the words. So, from my limited human consciousness, when somebody shares something big, I don't know what to say. But when I'm connected and cleared and connected to something bigger than me, the words just appear. And the space, I think, that safe space for people to feel what they feel, I think that makes people feel really comfortable and really held. And what's nice for you is that when you leave those interactions, you can just leave those interactions, or you don't have to take the feeling with you. You can just leave it be. And anything that's on your side. So oftentimes when somebody is sharing something that's sad, you feel sad about that, and that's okay, but give yourself space to feel your own feelings. And I think that's kind of part of the process of like having a practice like meditation or Reiki, that it gives you these tools to take care of yourself. And when you do that, it actually increases your capacity to care for others. And you don't get as bombarded and dragged down. But how does that all sit with you?
One thing I thought of was, especially in friendship, we start to say like, I am, you know, oh, that happened to me, and this is how I dealt with it. If I don't do that, it's so like it's just like you said, like if you let it slide away and ground instead of coming in and impacting your memory or your experience, and then you wanting to share that with your friend. I mean, they might even know the scenario you're talking about, and it's so easy to like tap into that all the time, or like snap into that almost like, but it's not always the best. It's almost never the best way to like respond to someone's experience. Like if they're sharing an experience with you and you fire back with a similar experience that you've had. I mean, like in a way that is a friendly conversation, but then in another way, it's also, and yes, we learn from each other, and yes, we like, learn from each other's experiences and even like solutions sometimes, but also everyone's experience is so unique to their own selves that like this practice of not interjecting or yeah, interjecting yourself into a scenario is it can be so much more powerful, and it can open yourself up to being available that much more to also like learn from for yourself like what the possibilities are of like a scenario, or like to listen for, I don't know, to listen for something that's not already been talked about, like that hasn't already been said. And like that download, that like connection to the rest of it, like the high, like your spirit and your guides and like a higher feeling.
I like how you said that. It's you're holding that energy and that space without putting yourself into what they're doing and what they're going through. And then which is good for them because then they can just be in it. But then it's also a lot easier for you to hold your own energy clear, right? And I like also sort of like with the energy boundaries is also just regular old boundaries, right? And one of the things is I think especially for people who are kind and helpful and you can feel other people's pain is like you want them to feel better as quickly as possible. And that's often coming from a very kind place is like you don't it's hard to watch people you love suffer, and especially if you feel like, well, this worked for me, so then it could work for you, and then you can just stop hurting, and then I'll stop hurting because you're hurting, and then that will just make me feel better, and that can work. It has maybe some help in some circumstances, but when people are going through really big things, particularly if you haven't gone through anything close to that, you aren't qualified, And so one of the things, the tools I do is I always listen for the question. So if they aren't asking me a question, like, what do you think about this? Or is there anything that you think that I could do? Or I really want this to change and I don't know how. That's like, an invitation. And then you can ask. So you give them power and control. And you can say, well, I have a few things that have helped me. Are you interested in them? And so they are not immediately like, blah, here's
Right.
your top five things to fix your life,
Yeah.
And I find that like, asking like I have a tool, are you interested in that? Or I read a book that was really helpful. Are you interested in that? They might not have bandwidth to do any of those things, and that's okay. And then also it's like asking curious questions is often I find more effective in being a help in that helper role. So, asking them what their plan is. And then if you are concerned about their well-being, then, you know, you can always, sort of gently say, like, I'm concerned about you, and maybe you need more help than what I can provide. It's always good to have like open up those kinds of conversations too. But and I think encouraging people to get like extra support, especially if you feel like you can't be it. I think sometimes we'll jump into the rescuer role where we want to like swoop in like a superhero and fix everybody and heal everybody like it's we're the only one who can do it. What I like from sort of this Reiki practice and the way we approach it here is that a core concept is that all healing is self-healing. And even just taking that perspective in is like they have to do the work. If they want their lives to get better, they're the only ones who can do it. Unless they're children, children need help, but adults, friends, coworkers, people, clients, and people that you're helping, they are there for you are helping them by being there and by listening and then helping from your skills as well. So know what you're good at and be careful about stepping beyond what you're good at. So if you feel like, oh, I think I've become my best friend's therapist, then in which is okay if you actually are a therapist. But probably also ethically, maybe you need to direct them to someone else, right? Because you're not their therapist and they need that extra support and I feel like the more we can encourage people to reach for help and true sources of help, I think that's it takes a lot of the pressure off, right? So sometimes what bogs us down as sensitive people is that we're trying to be everything for everyone and fix all of the problems and come up with a solution for world peace and like just all everything that we could possibly do, like then we have to do that, and at the end of the day it was like we still didn't do enough. And it's okay, there's lots of help, there's lots of helpers, and all you can do is your little bit. But I think it's so important to kind of stay in your lane and know that it's a self-healing process. Everything we do is all internal. There are tools that help with that self-healing, but the person themselves have to be activated to take those steps and do that healing, and they might already have a plan. So if we interject, then we might be disrupting their thought process.
Yeah, totally. I also thought of like, just people on helplines or like 811, like the nurses helpline. Like you're a parent and you're just like worried about your kid or something like that. And I'm sure that there's certain types of people who would answer the phone in a way that they become immediately emotionally involved in the other person's worry. And, like if it's a fellow mom and they have a 5-year-old as well, like they might, instantly go to that place where they're a mom with a 5-year-old and they know how it would feel and all of those things. But yet they are in this professional role where they must have these boundaries because they're going to get 10 of these calls that they can become emotionally involved in. And each of those 10 people will only, energetically feel their own worry and pain, whereas the person who's taking in the calls can feel all 10 of those if they allow themselves to. And that can be so depleting. And like, yeah, to have this same tool of being grounded and being aware of your role not trying to become involved in the emotional aspect of what the other person's going through, but being there for them as a grounding, helping ear.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like it's sort of like putting on your aura at the beginning of the day is a required thing for sensitive people. Especially if you know you're going, if you sometimes we don't know if we're going into a tense situation, but if you are like crisis call support or a nurse or a teacher, you kind of know the energy you're jumping into every day. And definitely, there's lots of tools and resources within each of those professions and use them. But um, I I kind of think it's like if it's sort of like walking outside in a rainstorm, right? Like you can put on your rain jacket while you're in the rain, or you can put on your rain jacket before you leave the house. Either way is going to be better than not putting it on at all, but it's definitely better for you or easy. It makes your day so much easier if you take care of your grounding and your aura before you leave the house. So, um, some tools for that, if you choose it, are, and we'll put links to those meditations in the show notes, but there's a light worker activation meditation, which is basically like a little guided Reiki pressure wash. You can clear things, you can let things go to the earth, you can clear your aura, and at the end, it feels like it hits the cosmic reset button. There's also a guided self-healing meditation where you get guided through a self-healing process, which is really quite nice. You don't have to know Reiki in order to do any of these things. Another one that's really good is the tree meditation because it both connects you to the earth, but it also brings an upward energy through your body. So if you find that your energy is dropping, sometimes moving the energy upward through your body gives you that sort of little empowering lift. And it also clears your aura as well. So you get sort of that grounded feeling and then also your clear aura. And all of those are on our website. So if you go to the Luna Holistic blog, you'll be able to find a whole pile of meditations. We've also got some on Insight Timer. There's a bedtime meditation if you find you're sort of buzzing from the day to just sort of like let the day go and, kind of settle you into bed. And but yeah, so those are great. And then I really feel like sensitive people who work in front lines, like if you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend learning Reiki. We do have a Reiki class starting this summer, and we have more starting in the fall. So check out the lunaholistic.com/courses to learn more about how you could learn Reiki, because basically in that 8-week course in level 1, you learn grounding, you learn meditation, you learn how to do self-healing and clear your aura and clear all of your chakras. And I kind of wish all sensitive people, could take at least that level 1 class because it gives you all of the tools that um, help keep you protected and clear. And then if you get sort of sprayed with somebody else's energy, you can, windshield wiper it off and clear it off at the end of the day. And that's fine. You just hit the reset button and you start again. And then we also have, Reiki sessions as well. We can do those in person here in Calgary or by distance. Those are really great if you just feel like you've been bombarded for so long and you just need to hit the get clear, I find that is really great. Even for me, I make sure that I get a Reiki session every month or so from my fellow practitioners to make sure that it just sort of like clears the pipes, and there's a bit of you can't always see your blind spot. I can't see the back of my head. And so I need somebody who can see the energy from a different angle and help me out with the stuff that I can't get to or reach in my own healing. So, yeah. How's that all sit with you? Any final thoughts?
It is great advice to like learn Reiki if you're an energy worker or like a healer or a frontline worker already, because it does really help with recognizing how to hit that reset button.
And not even if you're planning on doing Reiki with anybody, but just for your own care and to like reset between calls. Like I've had a number of students who are nurses and frontline workers and crisis call counselors and people who are caring for aging parents and a household full of kids at the same time. And what I see with people is that it's been, kind of this life-changing magic for them, that it's given them tools to stay settled and grounded and you can hold on to yourself. So then not only do you get through the day and you feel lighthearted at the end of it, but then you actually start enjoying the service that you're providing, and you get all of the good stuff, which is helping people in the way that you best like helping people without any of the downsides, which is the overwhelm and bombardedness, and then kind of wanting to close off from being too in it, and feeling depleted. And for me, it's like, I really love teaching people who are helpers because I can feel the ripple effect of that help going out into the world. And I also feel like it's so important, like, people have worked so hard to get where they are, and they know that it's their calling, but they're just so tired, you know. And I kind of feel like if Reiki can be a skill that keeps people in their best area of service, then I mean that's amazing to me, because you have to be where the universe has placed you, right? And everything has upsides and downsides, but sensitive, caring folk, there is hope. and, and if you take care of your energy and take care of your boundaries, then you can stay clear, even though everybody is asking you for help all day long. So,
Totally.
amazing. Well, thank you so much, Rita. Thank you for joining me today. It was
Yeah.
delightful as always. Yeah, and we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Hey, bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic Podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.